Conversations with Coach V. That's me, Coach V, certified life coach and personal growth expert with SVM Initiatives, LLC. Don't forget to find us on Facebook at SVM Initiatives, LLC, and also Healing Conversations with Coach V, both on Facebook. Give us a like. And if you're on the YouTube, look me up at Coach V, the Healing Coach. If you want to be a guest, you can send me a message on any of those platforms, and you will be sure to hear from me as soon as I can get to you, right? Because we're always looking for guests. So for those of you who are new to the show, or for the returning visitors, you know that this show is always about people who have been through something in life, like all of us have, but have made a choice to overcome that obstacle in life. And then they come on the show and share us what was birthed from them choosing to heal and overcome from that life challenge. So today is no different. And we had to do some finagling, but I got a very, very special guest today. I'm just going to introduce her as Judge Marilyn Zayas. However, when she talks to you, she's going to break that down a little bit more because I was nervous to mess it up. So I have guest Judge Marilyn Zayas in the space today. Welcome, Judge.
Thank you so much.
Judge Z.
There you
Hashtag Judge Z.
There you go.
So thank you again so much to you and your team for accommodating us and coming onto the set, because I know when I met you, I knew a little bit about you, but then you gave me your 30 seconds and I knew more about you, and then it made me research. So I think that your story should be shared. But before we get to that, how about you take a couple minutes and tell the audience who you are?
Okay, well, you can call me Judge Z.
Judge Z.
Yes,
Hashtag Judge Z. Okay.
So I serve on Hamilton County's Court of Appeals.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've learned the court system is like a big mystery to everyone. And my court is the most mysterious one of all.
Mm-hmm.
I call mine the mystery court.
Okay.
But the Court of Appeals is it's sort of like being the Supreme Court for Hamilton County.
Okay.
So when people appeal cases, they bring it up to us. Most cases, that's the last place that they get heard.
Wow, okay.
Very few cases are heard by the Supreme Court of Ohio. And I'll give you some numbers. Last year, our court heard about 400 cases.
Okay.
Out of those 400 cases, some of them have been requested to be taken by the Supreme Court of Ohio.
Okay.
Up to date,
Okay.
they have taken one issue, 3 cases, but the same issue, one issue, out of all the cases that were heard.
Out of 400?
Out of the 400 that were heard.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
In our court, yes.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
That number breakdown
Yes.
that's staggering.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, because I know you got numbers and figures and all this for everybody. Before we dive into that, though, I would love to know, I'm sure the people on Spectrum would love to know, I'm sure our YouTube family would love to know. Tell us some history on who Judge Marilyn Zayas, a.k.a. Judge Z, is, or who she was before she got to the appellate seat.
Well, first I'm Latina.
Okay, then represent.
So I'm what we call a New Yorican.
A New Yorican. I get it. New York and Puerto Rico.
Exactly.
Okay, I
so
got
my
it.
parents are from Puerto Rico.
Okay.
I was born and raised in New York. I was actually born in Spanish Harlem.
Oh, okay.
So my family lived in Spanish Harlem. And then from there we moved more uptown to what we thought was a better neighborhood.
Okay, right.
But very quickly, the heroin epidemic of the 70s devastated the neighborhood. To this date, and from there it became crack cocaine. So to this date, my neighborhood is called Crack City.
Like present day 2018.
Yes, like if you were to Google Crack City USA, it'll say Washington Heights, New York City.
OMG. So for those of you who gonna Google that, let us know in the comments that you check that out. All right, Crack City USA.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So those neighborhoods, those are tough neighborhoods, obviously.
Right.
And growing up in the 70s, being Latina in New York, it was also an environment where there was a lot of discrimination.
Okay.
So when you grow up in these neighborhoods, and my family circumstances were also not particularly normal.
Okay.
So you know how people today say it's a dysfunctional family?
I do.
Well, that's the politically correct way of kind of characterizing my family.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It was beyond,
okay.
Right? Mm-hmm. So, typically when you grow up like that, you really aren't expected to even get out of high school. And certainly I had many experiences growing up where it was clear that people did not expect from myself nor my siblings to do very much with our lives. But we all have dreams, right?
Yes.
And it's interesting because it's funny thinking about my dreams because at the time they seemed very lofty.
Right.
And,
okay.
right?
Okay.
They really seem like, oh my gosh, like if I accomplish this, like I have made it.
Made it.
I have
Yes.
made it.
Yes.
And to me, my dreams were to go to college. And when I created that dream, I didn't know what college was.
Okay.
I just knew that it was a way out.
Oh, right.
So later I got
Sort
to
of
learn
represented,
more.
I
Yeah, I
gotcha.
learned but initially it was like, I want to go to this college thing, whatever that college thing is.
Get
And
me
so-
there. I
Get
got
me
you.
there.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
college, I wanted to get out of New York City.
Okay.
It was my goal to live outside of New York City. And I wanted to own a home. I had grown up in apartments, so I really wanted to have a house. And the picture of a house to me would be a starter house here. It'd be like a
Okay.
2-3 bedroom with a 1 bath. That
Okay.
to me, like if I own a house that's a 2-3 bedroom house with a 1 bath, I have made it. And if it has a yard all the way around and it's detached and it's not a townhome, I have really made it.
And those are very realistic, not crazy, astronomical type
To me, they
dreams.
were
Yeah.
very lofty. They really
Yeah.
were.
Okay.
They were extremely lofty. And my escape growing up, I feel like we were blessed because we had a balcony. So growing up in New
Wow,
York and
okay.
having a balcony, very few people have that.
I got you.
And so that was my backyard, that was my escape, and I'd go out there with my Barbie dolls. And that's what I would dream. I would like visualize this life I was going to have where I was not going to be in New York, where I was gonna own a house someday and my kids were gonna grow up in a house. And so everything I did was really working towards that dream. And I feel, and the other blessing I had is that God gave me intelligence. So I was able to
Amen.
put that into good use. Attended a magnet school very similar to Walnut Hills.
Okay.
It's called Brooklyn Technical High School, so
I
you had
just
to
want to give a
test for
shout
it.
out. I'm an Eagle. Excuse me,
Yeah.
Jersey. Shout out to Walnut Hills High
Yeah.
School.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you know how special that is, right?
I do.
It's
yes,
very special.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So I think Walnut Hills is top 100.
Constantly
Yeah.
in that high ranking.
Brooklyn
Yep,
Tech is
absolutely.
also top
Absolutely.
100 public school in the
Okay.
United States.
Okay, Brooklyn.
Yeah, you go. So
Okay.
and from there, I decided I wanted to be an electrical engineer. Go figure.
Wow,
Very
okay.
few women at that
Okay.
time. And I set out. I got my applications together, and my goal was I wanted to go to the best school that I could afford to go to. The idea of student loans and all of these things, I couldn't understand it because I was like, I didn't have a family that could fund it. So it's like, how can I self-fund this?
Right.
And I wound up going to a school that's very much like going to UC. It's the
Okay.
UC of New York City.
Okay.
Majored in electrical engineering, then transitioned to computer science, and then I started working. And at that point, soon after I started working, I said, okay, now it's time to get out of New York. Put in applications for only companies that were outside of New York, and
That's
that's
it.
how I came here.
Okay.
So I came here in
Totally
'88.
different though from the legal field.
Yes.
Like totally.
So
totally,
my background is
different.
technology. So a lot of
Okay.
people don't know that.
Yeah.
And I came here to work for Procter and Gamble.
Oh, for P&G.
So
Good
that's
old
how-
P&G.
yes.
Okay.
So,
okay.
yeah, yes.
Okay. So with all these, what you call lofty dreams,
Right.
which to us present day are, you 2-bedroom house and, the fence and the yard. Okay, cool. We can do that. With all those lofty dreams, what was the process for Judge Z to say, okay, this is where I want to get to. This is where I am. I know I have to do this college thing, whatever this is. Pretty sure that there were some challenges and some hurdles, some naysayers.
Absolutely.
What was it like during that time, and what kept Judge Z plugging ahead to make sure her dreams became a reality?
See, I'm very pragmatic.
Okay.
And it's sort of the engineering me, because engineers are very literal also,
Yes,
right? So I also
absolutely,
I think very
absolutely.
literally, I think very process oriented. I break things down into detail, but I'm also very pragmatic. So for me, it was more like, this is where I am, this is where I want to go, how do I get there? And so whatever came along the way that said you can't do it, I just never heard that.
Very good. Okay.
I never heard that. And I don't know if that's my genetic makeup. I don't know if it's growing up in New York.
Okay.
Because the other thing, when you grow up in New York and and I'm one of those people that I came to bloom very early.
Okay.
So
okay,
you walk down the
understood.
street and you get harassed by the
Understood.
guys. So what do? You just kind of walk down the street and you kind of look forward, right?
Tunnel vision. Got the
So,
blinders
yes,
on.
yes. So I learned very young to kind of just walk forward and just keep going forward, and that's kind of the way I did life. It's just like, this is where I need to go, and I just I don't hear all that stuff. Like, you think I'm hearing you, but I don't hear you. I just know that that's where I want to get to, and I just need to figure out how to get there.
I love how you just explained that, because I think it's important for the people way in the back to hear exactly what you just broke down, because you had a choice in that moment. You had a choice to listen and be distracted and fall off your horse, or you had a choice to say, this is what I'm doing, let me stay focused. And I like to say blinders like on a horse, because the blinders are there so they can't see left or right. They are forced to look straight ahead. So essentially, that's what you chose to do. How did that look like, though, mentally, emotionally? You know, you was like, I'm not hearing you. But of course, some of the words got in there. What was it that you told yourself or encouraged yourself on that journey?
You know, one thing that actually has helped me out is having a theme song.
You gonna sing for us, Judge Z? Or you just
No.
Okay.
I'm not a good singer, but seriously.
Okay.
So, and my theme song has changed over time.
Of
So when
course.
I was growing up, you know the hymnal, and I don't, what is it? When you walk through the rain, keep your chin up high,
Okay.
and don't be afraid of the dark.
Okay.
That's when I had those really tough times, I would sing that.
Yes.
And if you listen to those words,
Mm-hmm.
they're very profound.
Yes.
And I would absorb those words.
Okay. Made them real. They were
And
real.
and that's actually how I got through. And that was my theme song all the way until, I think into my 30s.
Okay.
And then I went through many years without a theme song.
Okay.
And then it changed.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had a theme song when I campaigned in 16.
What was your theme song? I'm just curious.
Okay,
Folks is curious.
and you know what people find out, and what it is I would encourage the viewers to Google
Okay.
the words to this song and
Okay.
listen to the words.
Mhm.
Now the words are in Spanish,
Mhm.
but you can find them in English.
Sure.
And so it's a Mark Anthony song,
Okay. I know who Mark Anthony is. Yes.
and it's called Vivir mi vida,
Okay.
which means live my life.
Live my life.
Okay, and there's a part of that song that says, sometimes one drop of water
Okay.
can annihilate a drought.
Wow. Say that again for us slower.
Sometimes one drop of water
Uh-huh.
can annihilate a drought.
And what did that mean to you hearing that?
What that meant to me, because when I was running,
Mhm.
like I knew what I was getting myself into.
Right.
I
Okay.
mean, at the time that I was running, there was absolutely no Democrats on the Court of Appeals in Hamilton County.
None.
None.
Zero.
There hadn't been one for I don't know how long.
Wow. Okay.
The last time a Democrat had been elected and through that election had won a seat against an incumbent was in the year 1993.
93.
Yes.
And in 2016,
It happens
broke
again.
that.
Yes.
Okay.
Never had a person of color been elected to
Mm.
Hamilton County's Court of Appeals.
Period.
Period. In the
Wow.
history of the court.
Wow.
And later I find out that never has anyone of Latina background have been elected to any of the Ohio's appellate courts.
So I want to make sure that we receive what you just said. So if my math is right, in 23 years, there had not been a Democrat on a seat
There had been a Democrat who won against an
who
incumbent.
won against an incumbent
Yes.
in 23 years.
Yes.
And you took care of that issue.
Yes.
Then they'd never been a woman on the seat.
There had never been 93 was the first woman also.
93. Oh, so it was
So
the first woman
and the
the
first-
first Democrat
yes.
to be an incumbent in
Yes,
93.
in 93.
And then you came along 23 years later
And changed that.
and changed all of
Yes.
that. And then in 2016, first Latina woman on the seat.
On the seat statewide for the Court of Appeals. Yeah.
Okay then,
Yeah.
Judge Z.
Yeah. And that one drop of water, what it meant to me was not so much that part of it.
Okay.
It actually was more about what can one voice do.
Understood.
Because I remember when I was running that somebody said to me, well, what's one person going to do?
Wow.
And I took that to heart of
Wow.
like, wow. I felt like that was a challenge.
Yes.
Like, okay,
Yes.
if I win, I have to make this meaningful, because if I don't do the job the way that it should be done,
Mm-hmm.
then what did it matter whether I was elected or someone else? You might as well have elected somebody else if I'm not going to really absorb this job and do it the way that it's intended to be done for the entire community,
Mm-hmm.
for every portion of Hamilton County, from Crosby Township to Newtown. Because I represent everyone, whether you voted for me or not. I represent
I'm
the
for you.
entirety of
Yes.
Hamilton County. Yes.
Yes.
And what is it that people want? People want for the law to be applied, and for it to be applied even-handedly, and for it to
Equally
be
possible.
respected.
Yes.
For the law to be
Yes.
respected.
Yes.
And that's one thing that I learned about growing up in my circumstances.
Mhm.
Between the neighborhood and the family circumstances, for me, like, I've never asked for special treatment. It's not about, don't give me special favor. I heard about this quote the other day, I ask you for no special favor. I merely ask that you take your foot off my neck.
I know that's right. Give me an opportunity. Yes.
Right? So that's what it, so it's like, I'm not asking for special favor. A lot of people are really asking for special favor. It's just like, I want to be treated like everyone else. I want to have the same opportunities like everyone else. And when I serve, I'm not serving one segment of the community, I'm serving everyone. And if I'm respectful to the law, then I will be serving everybody. And, and then that one drop can really be meaningful.
Yes. I ain't bring my white handkerchief today, Judge Z. I ain't bring it. I forgot. I want to make sure that we get to share one of the things we talked about in the green room today when you were talking about that you represent the entire community, from one town to another town. I want to make sure that everyone gets to hear the things you shared with me so that they can really get to know who Judge Z is. So with that being said, what's your background? What's your DNA makeup?
What's my DNA?
What's your DNA makeup? Yeah.
Well, my brother had his DNA done. And so our biggest portion is Iberian Peninsula, which is Spain and Portugal.
Okay.
But that's less than 40%.
Okay.
So after that, his next biggest portion was African. Yeah. So his DNA showed up to have 17% African.
17%.
Yes.
Get out of here. Okay.
Then the next after that is Native, and it's Native Caribbean, which was 14%.
Okay.
And you know that...
Those some big numbers.
Yes. And you know that saying about everyone has a little Irish in them?
Yes.
So...
Yes.
So Irish showed up in there, a little bit of Italian, European Jew. And that's the history of the Caribbean. The Caribbean history is very similar to the continental USA. There was a lot of slave ports. There were native people on the island. Right. And then folks came from different parts of the world and made that portion of the world their home at some point. So it's particularly for Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is one of those islands that truly reflects that. Okay,
so when you tell people, campaigning or not, that you represent the entire community, you represent the entire community. And I think that is so important for people to know, because a lot of times in the society we live in, people look at us and think they can assume who we are, where we come from, what we do, what we like. But when we're able to run down percentages and numbers and let them know, like, this is who I am, I came here to serve you, then that, it kind of makes people take a second look, like, hold on, let me check and see. So, good, cool beans. So if people wanted to find out more about you, because I'm sure you've whetted a lot of palates today and finding out, okay, who exactly is Judge Z? Where can they learn a little bit more about you or get a hold of your office, or how can they do that?
Well, two things. I would extend an invitation to anyone who wants to come visit the court.
Okay.
Our court is actually a public court. It's just that it's the mystery court. Nobody knows where we are, who we are, or what we do. So we don't get very many visitors. But it is a public court. We hold court Monday through Wednesdays. We start at 9 o'clock. It's timed arguments, 30 minutes each case. So it's very similar to the Supreme Court proceedings. So one attorney is arguing and saying there's some error, there's some issue that occurred in the initial decision, and court, I want you to correct it. And the other attorney is saying, no. Everything was done according to the law. There is nothing to be addressed here. And that's basically, and each side gets 15 minutes. So if we have one case for oral arguments, 30 minutes is done. That's it. We have two, So it's always Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. Starting at 9 every day. It starts at 9. I'm not on every week. It's 3 judges for each case. So we call those panels. Some people ask me why 3 judges. And so, 2 heads are better than 1.
True.
3 are even better.
3 are even better. Per Judge Z. I hope y'all got that. She said. Okay.
Which is also why it's good to have, particularly in the appellate court, judges that really reflect the entire community, because we're going to be looking at all the details of what happened, of not only the law, but the testimony and the record and the evidence. And so the more perspectives you have, the more sort of full and complete review you will have
Agreed.
of that. So imagine if you have a Court of Appeals of 6 people that are like me. Is that going to give you confidence?
Absolutely not.
Exactly.
Absolutely not.
So 6 people that look like anybody is not really what the system is intended to reflect.
Agreed.
It really should be 6 people of different backgrounds, of different, perspectives, and so on and so forth. I was an engineer. I worked for Procter & Gamble. I was an adjunct professor at UC. So I have all these different things that I bring to the table, and my fellow judges bring different things. Okay? So, yeah, the first thing I want to extend an invitation, because I think seeing it is very different.
Yeah, my interest has been piqued.
Yes, and it's a very formal court.
Okay.
So it's really something to behold.
Okay.
It's really something to behold, and it's very well run court. So that's the first thing. The other thing is, I do have a website.
Okay.
And it's judgemarilynzayas.com.
Right. And the spelling. Make sure we get the spelling out there.
So it's JUDGEMARILYNZAYAS.com. Pretty simple.
So simple.
Absolutely.
Simple. Okay.
So there's more information there with regard to myself. Yes.
Okay. So keeping in mind that the show is Healing Conversations with Coach V, can you give us your perspective on a couple things? One, on how your personal journey to get where you said you wanted to get to, because I'm sure you got that house with the 2 bedrooms and the yard all the way around. I mean, I'm sure you surpassed that by now, but I know at some point you obtained the college and, and to get out of New York, obviously, because you're here with us today in Cincinnati. So the healing aspect from you achieving those things younger, but then also, too, the accomplishments that you made in 2016, how that's healing for yourself as well as for the community at large.
See, I think what happens is in life we go through a transition.
Yeah.
So we go through the first phase where we're trying to achieve whatever our goal is,
right.
Whatever it is that we want to see ourselves being. And then when we get there, hopefully then that will now initiate the next transition.
Right.
Because the other thing that I've learned about my upbringing is what happened to me was that I don't want other people to go through what I went through.
Yes,
so if I have an opportunity so that someone can have a path that is going to be more welcoming, that is going to be more fruitful, where they can kind of get through life a little bit more expedited than they would have otherwise, then I want to be part of that. I love this DeVry commercial. It says something like talent is equally distributed, but opportunity is not.
True.
Right?
Yep.
So I really believe that. I think that talent is equally distributed, but opportunity is not. So even before I took the bench, I did a lot of community work.
Okay.
One of the areas that I worked in very strongly was with victims, with victim advocacy. And I worked a lot with law enforcement with regard to victim advocacy.
Okay.
When I took the bench, then you cannot be an advocate anymore. You cannot advocate for anything. So what I did then was I said, okay, again, if winning is great, but if I don't do anything with it, if I don't do my job properly, and if I don't give back to the community, then what did it matter? It could have been me, it could have been anyone. And I remember after I was elected really reflecting on what does this really mean, and that's when I decided I wanted to do something for students.
Okay.
And I created a program, and it's called Bring Students to the Court of Appeals.
Of course.
Keep in mind, I'm an engineer, very literal, right? Bring Students to the Court of Appeals. And what it is, it's a collaboration with government teachers at the high school level.
Okay.
And so that they build into the curriculum the appellate courts and the Supreme Court.
Okay.
And then we have a field trip where we bring the students, and they get to sit in and watch the arguments.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
And after the arguments, arrangements are made. They get to meet attorneys.
Okay.
And then they get to meet myself and the fellow judges at the Court of Appeals. I share with them my personal story. And then the last thing we do is we run them across the street, because we're actually not in a courthouse. We're in a different building.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're at 230. We're at 230 East 9th Street.
Okay.
So we run them across the street to the courthouse so that they can see where the case was before it got to us. What does a trial court look like? What does a jury box look like? Because we don't have juries, we don't have trials in our courtroom, and they can compare and contrast and understand even more fully what we do by understanding what the trial court does.
Okay, I'm following you. Okay, because I wasn't aware of any of this. I don't think that program was around when I was in school. But so as I told you when we were talking in the green room, this time goes really, really quick. But I just want to make sure too, when you just talked about bring a child, say your program again,
students
bring
to the
students
Court of Appeals.
To the Court of Appeals. What type of response have you seen since you've put that program out there?
You know, it's actually been unexpected.
Okay.
I mean, I assumed that it would be favorable, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's really transformative because we have hosted Withrow, Dater, Gamble Montessori, and Hughes STEM students thus far. And we have 3 more schools that want to go through the program in the remainder of this year.
Okay.
When they come in, you can see that they're timid.
Yes.
You can see that they
Yes.
feel out of place.
Yes.
They feel awkward. They're not sure what to do. By the end of the entire experience, they own the court because they do. You know, you own my court, by the way.
Okay.
All of your
Okay.
viewers own my court.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I don't own the court.
Okay.
The taxpayers own the court, and the voters decide who's going to be sitting in those 6 seats.
Okay. True.
Right?
This is true.
So
this is true.
So you guys own the court.
Judge Z says so.
Yes.
Oh.
And so the students feel that they
Yeah.
feel that they are part of the court, and it isn't this foreign thing that they could never be part of.
Yeah.
Because not only do they feel they own it, but they feel that if they wanted to be part of it, if this was the career path that they chose, that it would be obtainable to them.
It's possible.
That it is possible to them. Now I want to share a thank you letter that one of the students wrote.
Sure.
And it went something like this. It was something like, I'm really embarrassed to say that when I heard about this field trip, I thought it would be really boring.
Flat out.
Right.
Okay.
I love the student because she was very honest, okay? But I must say that it was actually very interesting and I learned a lot. And she goes on to talk about what she learned. And this child was so inspired that she ends by saying, and may the judges also follow their dreams.
Oh, so she spoke life into you guys?
Yes.
So good. We're going to have to coordinate and bring you back to talk more about this program, because one of the things I do want to mention is the schools you mentioned, I heard, are inner city schools who may have a particular skewed version or vision of what the court is because of their environment.
Exactly.
But then you bring them in and you show them, no, this is a reality.
Yes.
You can be on
Yes.
the other side of
Yes.
the bench. You
And
know,
I always
so.
make sure that they meet the prosecutor.
Okay.
Because there's such a negative sort of feeling and perspective
Yes.
about prosecutors.
Yes.
So every one of these student groups have met a prosecutor, and the prosecutor has shared what their role is in the system, and they also get to meet a defense attorney.
Okay.
And they get to share what their role is in the system.
Get some clarity in the streets. Get some clarity for the community. It's been so awesome to have you today. Is there a 20-second last-minute comment that you can look into your camera and tell the folks for inspiration, for vision, for clarity? Boom, that's
Yeah. This is really what I want to tell people. I actually don't think I'm special. I think that I'm like everyone else. I really do. I don't think there's anything special about me. I feel like I am like everyone else. And the reason I want to share that with folks is because I think sometimes people think that things are for someone else
Yeah.
and not for them, because it's only for certain kinds of people or special people or blessed people.
Right. All these excuses.
Yes,
Yeah.
so I'm not any
Yeah.
blessed
Yeah.
or special person. I'm really just a regular person who happens to be elected to be a judge at the appellate court here.
I love that, because I already told you, you're just so down to earth, you know, and I want people to know that. So thank you so much for your thoughts and for sharing your story. And don't forget, you can find her at www.judgemarilynzayas.com. Yes? Okay,
Yes.
cool. Just want to make sure I got that out there. And we'll put the address and the link for you to find that. So thank y'all again for tuning in to this week's episode of Healing Conversations with Coach V. Thank you, Judge Z, for coming into the building.
you.
Shout out to Virginia, who y'all can't see. She off camera today. But thank y'all so much for watching us on Spectrum as well as YouTube. So tune in next week where we have another amazing guest who overcame a life challenge and made something beautiful happen from it. We'll see you next time.